What's up, guys? Back for another edition of McDaniel Motorsports on the 1969 Charger. Wow, it's been a lot of work, and I'm just a one-man circus here. So yeah, it's been a pile of work. I actually told my buddy who's gonna help me paint the car, I should probably be there sometime late September, early October. It's January 30th today, and the sheet metal installation is complete, but I still have a lot to do. So I am in the midst of, in fact, I just burned my fender braces in today from US Car Tool. Kind of a trip to weld this stuff because you're welding plate to sheet metal. Sometimes it's double sheet metal, makes it easier, but a lot of times there's seam seal in between the two pieces of sheet metal, which makes this. All kinds of really crappy welds, and I'm pretty sure I have mesothelioma now, so yay. But they're welded, nice pattern in the back. I forgot to grind those guys on that little seam there, but it'll get ground. I just found little pinholes and stuff from the old welder. Let me show you what the other side looks like. Yeah, it's really evident that when you weld sheet metal to plate, you really got to start your arc on the plate and end on the plate, otherwise bad things happen. So this side didn't have as much death in the welding process. It's a little cleaner, but it still was weird. Like, there's two pieces of sheet metal right here, for those of you who don't know, and they just kind of sandwich together and are spot welded. So in between there, it's got to be seam seal. So yeah, that made for an interesting weld, like holding my breath, doing half of a bead, and then taking another breath, that whole thing. But anyway, that's the worst of it. Here's the other side. And you know, one thing I did screw up is while I was trying to get a good, hot, consistent bead on this side, and I'm not a Hollywood welder, so make all the fun you want, that's fine. I know they're strong, but anyway, what I forgot was the top here and what heat does to sheet metal, and so put just a little hump right here. So I patched it, 'cause I had some screw holes here from my mock-up screws, but yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but I'll fix it. I'll just grind it flat and maybe glaze over it or something. I do have to put some glaze underneath here where the battery acid was dripping for years and years, so you can see that etching there. So anyway, there's going to be some glaze here and there. My next thing is this guy here, and let me get a better position here. I'll show you. All right, so see the jog in the upper core support, and I'm not sure, it looks, that would indicate to me that somebody drug an engine over it too low, and then they just didn't care, probably back when these cars were $3,000. So I'm not mad at the guy, but I have to figure out how to fix it, and it's taller here than it is down here, and so I was thinking of getting some block or plate and sandwiching the two, making a rig up with some big C-clamps and sandwiching the two, but leaving very little, you know, slack or cast off here, so I can get the torch in there and let it just relax. That's my game plan anyway. We'll see, but I'll bring you guys along for the ride. But yeah, we're getting closer. I have the torque box plates ready to go in. That's next, and then the subframe connectors, and that will be it for the metal work, and then I just want to slap all the old suspension back underneath it and just get it on a trailer and go start body working it. But there's a lot of little things in between there, but that is the update for today. So all right, let's get to work. All right, so I'm moving on to subframe connectors, and I'm going to show you guys how I got started. So I got them from US Car Tool, the usual. I pretty much thrown the whole catalog of US Car Tools at this car because, well, they're the only ones that I know of that make anything to strengthen the chassis of this car. And the reason being you need, or the reason you need to strengthen the chassis is because it doesn't have a frame rail that spans from the front to the back like, we'll say, a light duty truck, or I guess a chassis of that sort. But these cars are considered like a subframe car, where they have a K member, obviously, which is that, and that has provisions to bolt to the bottom of the pan, I guess we'll call it, and the suspension hinges off this, the engine bolts to this, and then it bolts to the bottom of the front of the car. So when you have a subframe, which is what I call it, car, you need to tie the two together. So basically there's a short run here, I'll show you. And again, for those of guys who know, they're probably not watching this channel, but so this is what I mean. So this is the driver's side under the back of the car, and you can see how this frame rail right here, or some, I guess, a frame rail of sorts, is basically, it just basically terminates right here. And so this is where the driver's seat mounts. And it's kind of hard to get your bearings, but here's the rocker underneath the driver door. There's where that's the seat support, and then you got the other holes for the seat. That's the back there. I don't know why I can't talk today. And then there you have the front frame. So the idea of these subframe connectors is to basically tie this frame, basically this guy, to this guy, and it's done with like a U-channel type piece. So as you can see, I've removed the paint where it's going to go. So what I did is I mocked it up, and I put, as you can see, one there on the ground. It's basically just a specially cut piece of channel. You can see it's all laser cut for the contours of the bottom of the pan. And so the back, that's the back of it, and that's the front of it, and it goes right here. So here's the passenger side front of the rear frame, and you can see where I marked with my paint pen basically where that piece of subframe connector will actually meet here on the bottom of the pan. So in order to get a decent weld, I have to actually remove the paint. So this is just E-coat, some primer on here from patches and whatnot. But so yeah, I marked that line there, and now I have to remove all the paint from it, and then I'll start fitting it after that. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up of where I'm at, and moving forward slowly but surely. Also wanted to mention, before doing these subframe connectors, I wanted to fit the front fenders on just to make sure that the body's not curling or crowning in any way. It is on jack stands, and the jack stands are under the front subframe and the rear subframe, so the car is stable, it's level. I do have one jack stand that's not carrying as much weight as the other three, but that's the nature of a concrete floor. Unless you've poured this and made sure that the contractor made it exactly laser straight, pretty common to have a low spot. So a lot of guys use frame jigs. I haven't done anything like that because, well, I haven't done anything structural really, or any structural frame repairs that would warrant, in my opinion, a frame jig. So And that's just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of guys will disagree, but this is just my way of doing things. So anyway, I hung the front fenders again and just mocked them in place. They're not adjusted or anything, but I was looking for crazy openings or super like big gaps that would indicate that the chassis is crowning or doing something weird. So before I weld these subframes on, I want to make sure that the car is not under any sort of stress. So hopefully that makes sense. If you don't understand, throw it in the comments and I'll try to answer it as best I can, okay? Alright, gotta get back to work. Alright, so I'm gonna drop this third member in. I have a 276 stock gear ratio, which I'm gonna roll with for now. It's probably a little too tall for what I need, but my transmission builder said I need like a 3.0 for the 4-speed he's building for me, so I'm gonna run with it and see what happens. My goal is to maintain or be able to go modern freeway speeds, and here in California that's like 85, 90. I know it sounds insane, but it's honestly, I mean, not everybody's doing that, but I want to be able to go freeway speeds in this car without it, you know, being at 3,500 RPM. So that's my attempt. I did replace it with a Sure Grip limited slip differential here. This is from Dr. Diff. Great value stuff that these guys sell. Got my axles from them too, that they have. They actually come assembled with green bearings, so you don't have to set the preload on the end. So if you guys don't know, the factory axles come with a tapered roller bearing, and it has a collar that you have to adjust the preload, kind of like what you'd find on like a front rotor of an old school car, where you have to actually set the nut and then spin the rotor and back it off a half turn and all that. You don't have to do that with any of that with this stuff. Basically, you just put a gasket on this guy, and then you put your T-bolts in and bolt it to the end of the housing flange. So really cool. I mean, these axles they're not super high performance. I don't know how they're going to do under the horsepower I'm going to put them under, but I'm not going to run slicks or anything like that, or I don't plan to. So hopefully wheel spin will prevail instead of breaking stuff. So I guess we'll find out. Anyway, so these axles again are from Dr. Diff. I don't have a sponsor with them or anything, but I really do think they're a great value. And they come with, you can actually elect to come with 3-inch studs, which as you can see, I did. And I've got my spring plates painted up and restored, and pretty cool though. These things actually have a serial number on them, so it's pretty neat. I don't remember ever seeing this on any Ford, GM products. Of course, I didn't look that hard either, so pretty cool. My pinion snubber, the bumper needs to be replaced, but I just haven't bought it yet, so I'm going to run that for now. But my goal here is to get this rear end assembled, so I can put the rear end on the ground and then start putting the front end together, just so I can get it off to paint. So this is like I guess you could say a mock installation, but I'm pretty sure this is going to stay together. It should be fine, but we're going to install it right now, and I'll show you how to do it. So I do want to show you where I'm at with the parts here. So I've got my U-bolts. Those guys go here, and as you can see, this is a axle on top of the leaf spring setup, where a lot of pickup trucks will have the axle underneath the leaf springs. And then you guys remember me putting this truss on. This is from US Car Tools. I figured, why the hell not? I'm gonna put some pretty good horsepower through this thing, and I don't want that axle housing twisting up, so I guess we'll find out. But anyway, let's get this installation started, and I'll bring you guys along with me. I did clean the axle housing out with a vacuum. I've kept it pretty well sealed up throughout all this. This housing has only been here for about a week, but I did have it covered up, so I don't want to get any debris inside there, just meshing with the gears and all that. So the housing it's got new seals inside here. But yeah, let's get this thing put together, and here we go. Here's something interesting. So I noticed that bottom of these spring plates have, like I was saying just a second ago, the serial numbers, but one of them actually is stamped with an L for obvious reasons. You can kind of see it there, and I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully, yeah, you can see the L right there. Weird, because the shock mounts actually go like that. So to me, the left side would be the driver's side in automobile world, but for some reason these spring plates are marked wrong. I don't know. There might be a reason. Maybe you can put it in the comments if you know better than me, but I just thought it was kind of odd. Like, this should be stamped right in my mind, but who knows? My mind is not always right. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Let's see here. Get this set up so you guys can see it. Get some problem solvers real quick. I'll be right back. So the U-bolts, when they're bent, they're probably bent over a mandrel, but they're not always correct for the holes that go in the bottom of the spring plates here. So what I mean by problem solvers is these guys. It's a giant set of channel locks, basically. I don't know what size they are, but they are what I call problem solvers. Biggest set of channel locks I've ever owned, but they work in a pinch. So what I'm going to do here is get them set up on the U-bolt itself, right there. Just got to squeeze them so they go through the holes here. There we go. Keep it. I want to do the other side. Try not to break my gaskets. And grab my creeper. This would be a good time to have a second set of hands. But you can do it. Get her. Come on. There we go. That's scratching everything up. Let's try this the other way. Seems like an easy task, doesn't it? It's never easy, man. Just building cars, just everyone thinks they just bolt together and it doesn't take any effort, but let me tell you, they don't. And they require a lot of extra effort, as you can see. I have some washers here and just a typical nylock nut. These guys. The thing with these guys is they're not really reusable. Everyone does use them multiple times, but they actually lose their ability to stay tight because that nylock end actually wears out after a few times of going together and pulling apart. Car like my old Ford Pre-Runner, to assemble that truck, not only did I use all grade 8 bolts, I used top locks, which actually have a mechanical end on the nut itself. Instead of the nylock, it actually has kind of an oblong shape in the metal in the top of the bolt, and it actually provides more of a mechanical jam, I guess you could say, almost to a point to where they cross thread, but the cross threading actually keeps the fastener together. So it's I guess you got to give and take. Grab a impact. Be right back. Installing the U-bolts, you want to make sure that they're straight up and down, and also want to make sure that this pin, there's a pin that goes through the spring plates, or the different leafs, goes right down the center, and there's a head on the top that locates the axle perch here. This guy, it's got a hole in the bottom of it, and you can see the bolt head there. So that's got to be in that hole there, so it keeps it centered. So when before you tighten your U-bolts, you want to make sure that they're straight up and down and not in a bind. So as you tighten them, you just got to tend it as you tighten them down. But a lot of times they'll want to just kind of walk, like the top will be out or in or whatever. So, but yeah, as you pull them down, you just want to make sure that they're going vertical. So yeah, they're kind of doing the little, yeah. So you just get a plastic hammer, keep them straight. Before you get too crazy on the tightening them up, I want to make sure that this pad or this thing hasn't jumped up off that pin. So just make sure that it's all seated. I know it's kind of repetitive, but it's important. Achieve an even amount of thread here in the finished product. So that's the goal. It's really hard to do exact, but that's the idea anyway. Get 90 foot-pounds, so I'm just gonna put them on there for now, and I'll torque them at the end. Moving to the other side. So you gotta take care that your shock mount is in the right spot. Again, it's super weird that this is labeled right. Okay, maybe one of you Chrysler experts can tell me why. I don't know. you actually can reshape these or bend them a little bit in a vise also in a pinch. You don't have these kind of pliers, but I'm sure you can go buy them at Hobo Freight for relatively cheap. I don't condone buying cheap tools though. That's not me. I mean, I guess, yeah, with that said, I think buying a press there is good. You know, a body hammer set, they have a great one. It's really good. I mean, stuff like that doesn't have any mechanical quality to it, is, in my opinion, fine. But like wrenches and stuff, they're not going to be as good as what you'd find at Craftsman or Snap-on or Matco or Mac. Any of those quality tool companies are going to be far superior with their tolerances. It's debatable though. Gosh, I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble by saying that. Somebody's gonna have a problem with it. That's all right. Everybody's got their opinion. And the reason why it's taking so long is I'm trying not to ruin the paint on my freshly painted parts here. Actually, getting better in my older age. I can withstand assembling things before they're dry. Back in the course of 20 years ago, I would have just slammed it together, dry or not. All right. It's my light saying I'm almost out of battery. Of course, I always push it to the very edge. Guess she gave up the ghost finally. Back with more light. It's pretty straight, I would say. You can see how it has to be bent around this axle housing diameter, but then the spring plate holes are just a little bit smaller, so they kind of curl in this way slightly, but it's all good. It's gonna be fine. All right. Let's pop this gasket on. Let me reposition the light real quick, and then I'll show you how I'm going to prep to pop that third member in. Right. So, I know it's kind of obvious, but this gasket means you don't need to use any sort of RTV silicone. Just the gasket. That's all you need. If you don't have one, feel free to use silicone. But yeah, this is just a paper gasket from Dr. Diff. And that's really all you need. So, let me go grab my third member, and I will be right back. Alright, so last chance to clean out any debris in here. Clean. All right, let me grab this third member. This is gonna suck by myself. However, gotta do what you gotta do. Put you guys right here. So you can watch me struggle. These cast iron third members are pretty heavy. Ugh. See if I can do this without screwing it up. Oh man, I forgot the tape. Don't forget to take your masking tape off. Great. Of course, it's been on there for weeks. Alright, with 38% more battery left on my camera, start to slam this thing in. Scarier than beating on a third member under a car that's on jack stands. Guess you guys will doing it for the tube. Hopefully not dying. I'll go get a rubber mallet. Be right back. Alright, change the battery in the camera. Let's watch me screw up my paint here. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. It's gotta go in square. Machining is pretty tight. There we go. Without ruining the gasket. There we go. There we go. Hey, I did it without screwing it up. All right. Let's get a safety nut so it doesn't fall on my head. I recommend taping off your threads. I didn't, and it's not ideal. These threads I'm putting these nuts on, I would recommend. That's what I'm referring to. It's like I cleaned them, but then I painted them, so it's totally pointless. And my differential gear ratio little tag goes, I believe, on the top right here. That's why. Man, I'm telling you, man, this final assembly stuff is a lot harder than it looks. Man, I looked all over for this cast iron paint. These are supposed to be bare iron, I guess, from the factory. So I was trying to get as close to what it would be from the factory. But I mean, this isn't like a concourse restoration or anything. But I do like to get as close as I can within reason of what it would have been stock or from the factory, I guess. That looks pretty close. I sweat the details. It's just what I do. Alright. Go grab an impact real quick. I'll be right back. Alright. Run these down in a crisscross pattern if you can. Just to get it seated. As the paint falls off. Some of them you'd have to finish with a wrench. Alright, so now I install my axle shafts. I've got, like I was saying, the green bearings. These are fully sealed. Again, no preload is necessary on these guys. They basically just sit in, and that C-clip basically holds them from going too far. And then you have this retainer guy that goes like that, and then you have a seal. So, and of course, don't forget your seal, which I'm going to go grab right now. There is an O-ring on these bearings. I just put a little light coat of grease on, and then I put some grease on the axle splines so it engages easier into the third member. So I'm gonna go grab my seals and we'll install this thing. So I got my seals here. These are the metal type, and they have a little shoulder on them. I always put the shoulder towards the grease or the oil side. That might be wrong, but I guess it's just my habit. Anyway, put these guys on. And you can see that my inner seal is in there. And you can see all the carnage from over the years of getting that preload wrong. I'm assuming that's what's happening there, but really doesn't really matter. It looks like a bearing may have gone away at some point in there, but I didn't see any sort of sign when I pulled it apart, so it's probably fine. Let's just pop this guy in. Those inner seals, or the outer seals, have grease on them already. You really don't want to let the axle sit on them, because it'll screw up the seal over time. I mean, just for a second, it's fine, but a lot of guys will let their axles sit just in the housing like that, and it'll deform the seal inside, so it's not a good idea. put some temporary hardware on here because I don't have my T-bolts. I think I lost them, or I don't know. There might be in one of my tubs, but basically you can see how that goes in and how nice it sits in there. Grab some more light here so you can kind of see the end result here. These are a really great value. Alright, I'm going to grab some hardware, secure this thing, be right back. So I have the total wrong hardware. Like I said, it's just, this stuff's just temporary. But I gotta have something to hold these flanges together, otherwise it's gonna be bad. Yeah, this hardware is actually way too short, but should be all right. Just rolling the car around, that's really all I need to do. I'm gonna put 4 of them in here and hope for the best. But I am not driving this car like this, just to be clear. It's really just to get it to the body shop. I'll come back and tighten these in a minute. That's nice. Having a rear end that's both tires move at the same speed. That's exciting. I'm gonna go grab a wrench. Be right back. Tighten these in kind of a crisscross pattern because of the flange. Could deform if you go all crazy on the first one and then just snug the other ones up. So just kind of go down evenly, trying not to warp the plate or the seal, more importantly. Now I don't have to worry about getting stuff inside my housing when I'm finishing up just the sheet metal and whatnot. So hope you enjoyed that, and there's more on the way. I'll show you assembly without the outcome. Watch the pinion yoke, and then watch the other axle flange over there. It's all moving together. That's what we're after. What's up, guys? So I wanted to share a little bit of a trick that I came across the other day. It's actually really cool. So when you're working on old cars and you come across a little hole of rust, like in a sheet metal panel, for instance, and depending on what kind of car you have or how bad the rust is, you're gonna find little tiny holes, and they just look like a pinhole at first. So let me show you this little cheat of how to tell how bad it is instead of, you know, trying to weld it first, or you know, knowing that you can fix it with just a zap versus, oh, I need to take this thing out and make a square out of it and put a new piece in. So the first one is obviously a lot quicker, but this is how you tell. So you can see this little guy here. Make sure you guys can see it. This little guy here is tiny, but honestly I don't know. Let's see, my door doesn't open up very far. So I'm gonna throw this guy in here. Usually you just put a little bit in there and work it around. Kind of drag it. And if it keeps going in one direction, you know that you got more to deal with. But you can see this guy is just pretty superficial. Yeah. Luckily, it's just a tiny little, and those of you guys who do Mopar, you know, late 60s, early 70s Mopars, you know that they rust for fun. That's what they do. Even after they're restored, they just keep rusting. So this is a little cheat I thought I would share. In fact, I think I actually have another one I'll share with you guys, but anyway, you get the gist of it. Here's another one. So you can see right down in here, I have a couple little holes. And again, by dragging that drill bit around, it'll basically chase, or the drill bit will actually just fly right through any super thin metal. So that's the whole point of this deal. So maybe I can get it to on one of the other ones, but you can see that's pretty solid metal right there. Let's try this guy. Now I should say you're not trying to drill through more, like say there's obviously another panel underneath this guy. You don't need to drill through that. You just want to basically make sure that the hole doesn't have any more to it. So that's all you're doing with the drill bit, is basically cutting through the thin metal, and it kind of shows you where, you know, what you have to replace basically. So hopefully that makes sense. See if I can get some more out of it. That's it. It's pretty good, I'd say. I'm actually really happy to not have to replace this piece, because there's a divot. I still need to dig this guy out and find that hole, but the head of the screw actually just rusted off, so I'm gonna have to take a measurement from that side and translate it over to here so I can re-drill that hole for this. It's like a trim retainer that goes right here. You can see what they look like right here. So yeah, just another place for rust to hide, but we're gonna get these zapped up, and I'm gonna treat the metal so that rust does not come back. So hope you like my little trick. Feel free to share it with your buddies who do sheet metal if they don't know already. So I wanted to add a little bit of something regarding basically clearing out those rust holes with the drill bit. I kept going, and I wanted to add something because I should have mentioned it a few minutes ago. But so after you use the drill bit, you clear out the hole. The weak stuff's obviously going to go away, but when you start welding, try like 22 gauge setting on your welder. Super, you know, cold. It doesn't have to be hot. The metal is going to be a little bit deteriorated in an encapsulated compartment inside of a car. It just is what it is. That's just the way it is. You think your car is rust free? Let me tell you, it's not. And there's nothing you can do about it. So rather than get all doomy and gloomy on you, it's normal. So what I'm getting at is, when you start welding these holes closed, just go slow. Just do one zap on the corner and then build off that zap. And it's gonna run a little bit. So that's the important point here I'm trying to make, is when you start welding, you're gonna see it running and basically opening up the hole more. And don't freak out. It's fine. Just maybe turn the welder down one more click. But I actually ended up burning all those holes that I showed you guys on my Millermatic 220 at 22 gauge sheet metal. So it's real straightforward. So anyway, hopefully you guys have good luck with that method. I found it really useful, and I should credit Goozy Fabrications on YouTube. Check them out. They're a real high-end car builder, and I've learned a ton from these guys. But yeah, Robert, who I believe owns the show or the company, he does a lot of really good narrating. So check out Goozy Fabrication, and again, I learned it from those guys. But cool tricks of the trade, and I wanted to share. So thanks. All right, so I bought a couple of doors for my Charger, and I'll show you why. I think you guys may know why, but I actually found them locally here, which was very surprising. And I got 2 doors for $300. I didn't even negotiate. I'm like, dude, here's $300. I took the 2 doors. They had glass in them both, window frames, I call them cigarette windows, you know, the ones that they're like, you know, the triangle shaped windows. Anyway, long story short, they're a little rough, but no cancer or anything. I've got the passenger door on the car. It's got some rubbing and racing going on with it, so I'm in the midst of fixing the sheet metal on it. But I wanted to show you guys the stud gun, and it's a really good value. I got it at Hobo Freight, of course, and it was, I mean, just a year ago I bought it for like, I think it was $260. Hell of a deal. I mean, for $260 these days doesn't get you much, and this tool is so useful, and you'll see why here in a minute. I'm going to show you how it works. But I just wanted to share, for those of you who have never seen this type of thing, this is like what guys like me working out of my garage will go buy when like a high-end stud welder doesn't fit your budget, like mine. It doesn't fit. So anyway, that overseas company sells one. It's Chicago Electric. Here it is. And the whole idea is, especially when you have a blind dent, so say for instance there were no holes inside on the back side of the door, so where you couldn't get a dolly back there or a hammer, and it was encapsulated, so there's no way behind this, in other words. So you basically weld these studs on with the gun in literally 2 seconds. By pulling the trigger, 2 seconds, it welds that little guy to there. And then it also comes with the slide hammer, which is, yeah, it says right on the handle where it's from. But basically this slide hammer goes on to the tip here, and I'll demonstrate. And you set that little wheel back and it grabs the tip, and you just use the slide hammer until you're happy with, you know, how far it's come out. So really cool tool. Great value. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I did the last car we built, I did the entire thing with this. You know, where all the little pecks and dings and stuff like that, it's so hard to get back there with the dolly and use a hammer and stuff. So anyway, this thing's really cool. But check this out. I'll demonstrate it for you guys. Alright, so I've got a little low spot here. I go around and circle them when I'm out here inspecting after I've done work, so I know where it is, so I come back to the circles, obviously. So basically there's a low spot here. The door handle must have gotten punched or something like that, who knows. But there's a low spot here, and I'm gonna remove it or show you guys how this thing works. So alright, so I know I've told you guys I don't like my air tools. It's really for my neighbors. I know doing sheet metal in neighborhoods sucks, and I'm sure everybody's glad I do it when they're at work, but just have a drill and a wire wheel on it. Just like welding anything, you want to have a good clean piece of metal. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean. And there's two different sizes of tips here that comes with the machine, and I'm using the smaller ones. So you get this little guy here, and you just put it in there, and you can see the little end there where it's going to weld to the metal here. So I like to use multiple, but you have to be able to fit the tip, or basically place the little rods in such a manner that the actual welding machine can actually land, unless you actually have to cut them off if you want to get too close. But let me show you guys. I'll do a couple here basically. And so you has a spring-loaded tip there, and you hold the button for like 2 seconds just to get a good burn through. Then you take your slide hammer, which has this funny little wheel on the top here. You can see it. You just basically pull it and it comes up, and you slide it over the end of that rod while pulling that little wheel back. The wheel grabs the little stick, so stud rather, and you basically put some tension on it, and you just gently. Now there's a little bit of door give, so you may have to go a few times. See how it's pulling up. Hopefully my camera stays on there. And then once you think you got it right, you just basically pull the hammer. Here, let me back up here for a sec. Basically just kind of releases it. Pull the wheel off, and voila. That's all the French I speak. But yeah, you guys get the picture. Pretty cool. For 260 bucks, this thing is a hell of a tool. Great value. I'm not sponsored by Hobo. I wish I was, but I'm not. Maybe one day, but thought you guys would like that.